About that time, let's start the meeting, everybody. Welcome to Toastmasters, especially honored guests. I'm glad to have everybody here. And our fellow speakers. We're glad to have everybody. The mission of our club, generally we'll wait for people, but we want to honor our time. So we'll let people stroll in if needed as time goes. And in the meantime, these guys are cleaning up the early hammer that fell over there. So it should be fine. The mission of our club. The mission of a Toastmasters Club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop oral communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster self-confidence and personal growth. It's our duty to make sure that everybody does their best and grows their potential that way. And the word of the day that will be introduced later reflects that. The theme of today's meeting is fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway. As Michael Jordan said, as you can see in this quote right here, limits, like fear, are often an illusion. Now is our time to introduce our Toastmaster, Tabitha Sedgwick.
Would you want to ask the guests to just stand and introduce themselves?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Just say real quick why they came.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. So, we'll start with that right away.
Hi, my name is Dee Stauffer. I've been a resident of Fairfield off and on. My name is Dee Stauffer. I'm a resident of Fairfield. I've lived off and on here for a long time. I'm a Pilates instructor. I teach Pilates in a studio here and also at the rec center. And I have a client over there who comes. So I kill him, actually, is what I do. Not quite, because he's still here. That's who I am.
Thank you.
Okay?
What am I saying other than my name?
Your name is great, and you can
Great.
say why you're here or not. It's up to you, or
Okay.
anything you want.
My name is Selena Magrum, and I'm here for many reasons, but timely because it's part of a teacher training that I'm involved with to develop my skills in speaking.
Excellent.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, you're next.
Hello, I'm Jamie Jarman. I was invited by the lovely speakers to enjoy some wonderful public speaking.
My name's Sylvia Richards, and I was invited by one of the speakers, Will Burns, who I am anxiously waiting to hear.
My name is Ava Boyd. I'm also a friend, a colleague of Will Burns. We actually were members of junior Toastmasters together. So he invited me tonight to hear his speech.
Any other guests like to introduce themselves?
I forgot I'm a guest. David Hauk, and I'm here to support Fraser. We work together at LISCO.
She may not want to stand up, but I'd like to introduce you.
Oh, can I just sit down because I just finished having dinner and I have poor digestion. My name is Ruby Maley, and I'm here because I was invited by Tabitha. And the reason why I'm here is because I would like to get more skills in the way I present myself to people. Because my next goal in life is to be a physician assistant and get my master's. So, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dan. It's always important to honor our guests and welcome you here, and we know and hope you will enjoy the night. So the first thing that I will do after that is introduce our role players for the evening, so you know what's going on and what we're up to in the background. And the first role player I'm introducing you to is actually our timer, Alex. It's his first time to be the timer, and one of the things you'll do now is say what the timer does and why they do that. And maybe Jean can help you out if you need any assistance with that.
Okay. The
timer will time you on your table topic speeches that are 1 to 2 minutes, just to let you know where you're at and when you need to stop. I'll also be timing the prepared speeches that are 5 to 7 minutes. I'm new to this, and I got my co-pilot next to me, and maybe she could back me up if there's anything I'm missing.
Okay, so here's what we'll do. So why don't you read where you put your lights in each thing?
For the table topics, the lights will come on. The green light will turn on at 1 minute.
Wait, here we go. Green.
The yellow light at 1 minute 30. And at 2 minutes, the red light.
Guests are welcome to do table topics, so it's important that you know about the lights.
So you have 2 minutes.
And
That's right.
And then mention that you have 30 seconds after that.
And you have 30 seconds before we start clapping.
Yeah.
After the red light comes on.
After the red light to finish up. Okay, so then the same thing with the prepared speeches.
The prepared speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Icebreakers are usually 4 to 6. The green light comes on at 5 minutes. The yellow light at 6. And the red light at 7.
Okay, and you do have one speech that's 6, 7, and 8, so tell us how you're going to be
8 to 10.
timing that.
8, 9
8
to
to
10.
10.
Yeah, I got it changed.
So this is going to be at 8 to 10. So it'll be green at 8, yellow at 9, red at 10. So why don't you tell them that?
It'll be green at 8, yellow at 9, and red at 10
One of our speakers, yes.
for one of our speeches.
Right, and then there's one more category, it's evaluations.
Evaluations are 3 minutes. The green light is turned on at 2 minutes. The yellow light is turned on at 2 minutes 30 seconds. The red light is turned on at 3 minutes.
And you'll be giving a report at the end.
And I will be giving the report at the end of the meeting.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Our scheduled timer needed to get some rest this evening, and Alex jumped right in, so it's really great of him to do that. Our grammarian for the evening is Emery Styron.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, many guests, viewers at home. My job is twofold. One, to note any especially good uses of the language and maybe some not so good uses and point those out. The second part of it is to introduce and track the word of the day. In keeping with our theme, our word of the day is limitless, which means without end, limit, or boundary. Example in a sentence, the opportunities for personal growth in Toastmasters are limitless. And I'll be reporting at the end of the meeting.
Thank you. Our next role player for the evening is Prana, and he will our odd counter.
Toastmaster, excuse me. I am the odd counter, yes. Thank you, thank you. All right, my role is to keep track of those filler words that we hear on the radio, on the television, on everyday conversation. And those filler words are like, you know, so, but, and, tongue click, Xerox. Xerox is basically when you say something and then you say something again and you're kind of not, you're stuck and you're saying the same thing but you don't, Xerox. So, for example, let's give you an example. I was going to the park and I was at the park and I was just walking around the park, you know, okay, Xerox. You didn't really say anything, but you said a lot of words. False start. False start is another thing that we look at. So anyways, filler words. I am the filler word counter, so I'll be keeping close track of your words and give a report at the end of the meeting tonight.
Our next role player for the evening is our general evaluator, and his name is Dan Craig. Oh, we don't do that. Okay, so, but it's on the list in case you need to know it, and you'll find out how that goes as it comes. Right now, we're going to introduce Dan Craig in a different format, because he will be evaluating our first speech this evening.
Just one question.
Yes.
The agenda says that Dennis is
general evaluator. I crossed out your name because of something else, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So Dennis is the general evaluator, just so you all know, and that is what your agenda says. My bad.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. You'll find out what that means soon enough. Okay. So our first speech will be evaluated by Dan, and he's going to introduce the objectives of the speech to you and also the speaker. So please welcome Dan Craig to the stage.
Tonight, Will Burns is going to give a speech from the Competent Communication Manual. This is the beginning manual, which he's already done once. He's so inspired, he's going to do it again. This is project number 2, which is called Organize Your Speech. And I'm going to read the objectives for you so you'll know what he's trying to accomplish as he talks. First, he's to select an appropriate outline which allows listeners to easily follow and understand the speech. Make the message clear with supporting material directly contributing to that message. Use appropriate transitions when moving from one idea to another. And create a strong opening and conclusion. His talk is going to be 8 to 10 minutes. And his title is The Westphalian Nation State. Sorry for this, I have to retrieve his intro. One of the formative experiences in Will Burns' life was his involvement in the multinational coalition to recreate the political order in Iraq. This experience highlighted both the incredible resources that could be brought to bear by a world superpower, but also the limitations of that power as we reflect on the unstable situation today, 14 years after coalition forces first entered the country. The Westphalian Nation State, quite a title, is part 1 of an 8-part series on government and governance, examining and highlighting the political forces undergirding the national and international systems in place today. Please welcome Will Burns.
Ferdinand II surveyed his domain. He was the newly elected Holy Roman Emperor. Now, the Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman, nor was it a proper empire. But it did encompass hundreds of principalities, free states, and duchies within it. However, while the HRE looked strong on paper, it was torn in the 1600s between a religious conflict between Protestants and Catholics in the state. But Ferdinand had had enough of this. In his mind, it was time to bring all subjects under papal authority, starting with those troublesome Bohemians. So with that, a spark was ignited that would engulf all of Europe in war. He sent his trusted representatives, 2 of them, to Prague, where they immediately set to work enacting his agenda. However, outside, an angry crowd gathered. They forced their way inside, made their way up the stairs, and burst into the Great Hall, allowing everyone to leave save for the 2 regents and their loyal secretary, which they proceeded to defenestrate, throwing them out of the window 70 feet to the ground below. This was called the defenestration of Prague, if you're curious. Surprisingly, they actually survived. Whether this was by divine providence, as maintained by the Catholics observing, or a well-placed dung heap beneath the window, as the Protestants held, they survived. Ferdinand moved swiftly and crush the Bohemian Rebellion. However, it was too late. Protestants from all over the land flocked to the banner of the Protestant League and took up arms against Ferdinand. Far worse, there were rulers outside of his domain that had their own plans for the HRE. Denmark and Sweden were eager to gain more control of the Baltic trade in the Baltic Sea and were concerned about their sovereignty should Ferdinand be successful. So they cast their lot in with the Protestants and joined as well. The development of the Swedes was a particularly terrifying development because they were led by a man by the name of Gustavus Adolphus, who had taken Sweden from a minor regional power when he became commander-in-chief at the tender age of 16 to a major great power of Europe, thanks to his military genius. Because the last thing you want in a great power struggle is a fair fight, Ferdinand reached out to his kinsman, Philip. Now, Philip and Ferdinand were both Habsburgs. Now, the Habsburgs are the bluest of blue blood royalty in Europe. Their philosophy was, let others make war. For this family, we marry. And this policy had delivered them into the finest throne rooms throughout Europe. The Spanish especially wanted to get involved because they were still stinging from a defeat at the hands of the Protestant Dutch. The Spanish really wanted to reclaim the Spanish Netherlands, so they were happy to join. Meanwhile, sandwiched between Spain and the Holy Roman Empire was France. France's chief minister, the Red Eminence, Cardinal Richelieu, eyed these developments warily. He had seen the Habsburgs' influence spread throughout Europe, and he was determined to stop it at all costs. He started with money. He bankrolled and subsidized the Danish and Swedish military campaigns. When that wasn't enough, he decided a little bit of revolution might be in order. So he funded the Catalonians in Spain and also fomented a rebellion within the HRE as well. And finally, when that was not enough, he really got mad and he got involved and he committed the French state to the conflict directly as well. The effect of such a titanic military commitment had the effect of creating a stalemate, despite all the numerous successes, reversals, and developments throughout the conflict. It's estimated over 30 years, over 8 million people perished in this conflict, mostly non-combatants. Even worse, both belligerents on both sides employed mercenaries. Mercenaries that were expected to be paid partially from their employer and partially to extract payment from the land and its inhabitants. After 30 years, Europe was crying out for relief. Thankfully, the exhaustion and suffering led to a groundbreaking resolution. The Peace of Westphalia, a series of treaties signed by 107 delegates over many long months of negotiation. In the small German Principality of Westphalia, which set about several norms with the state. One, that states are sovereign. No longer could a Habsburg marry and add power and territory to their domain. Second, that all states were co-equals before each other. Some may be more equal than others, some may be bigger than others, but they all could negotiate face-to-face, one-on-one, directly. Finally, domestic interference was reduced, and a norm was established to not involve and meddle yourself in the domestic affairs of others. To keep this balance and to control aggression, a balance of power where smaller states would band up against larger states was enacted to kind of keep the peace. Now, not everybody felt like this peace was exactly a good thing, or that it was really a good treaty. The Holy See was particularly displeased with this arrangement, with Pope Innocent X calling it null, void, invalid, iniquitous, unjust, damnable, reprobate, inane, empty of meaning and effect for all time. Over time, this bled into the creation of the international system. And as European influence spread throughout the world, this concept, particularly of sovereign states, expanded throughout the world. Now today there are other criticisms of the Westphalian system. For one, the policy about domestic interference. If we think about a recent occurrence like in eastern Ukraine. Or the birth and the continuation of supranational projects like the European Union, which go above the Westphalian sovereignty concept. But for now, with the nascent Westphalian state, national identity was starting to coalesce. However, the monarchs of old were the heads of state of new. Free of the larger entanglements from the rest of the conflict, Spain and France were able to hammer out their differences for another 21 years. But Richelieu was successful in stymieing the Habsburgs in Europe. Alas, Gustavus Adolphus perished, a casualty of the Battle of Lutzen. Ferdinand II also did not survive the 30 years. He actually died in his bed, and his son, Ferdinand III, made several concessions to the war peace. Unfortunately, these concessions weakened the centralized power of the HRE until over time, it was another emperor, Francis Napoleon I, the Corsican ogre, who snuffed it out. I hope you'll join me in 2 weeks' time for number 2 in this series, The Empire Strikes First, Colonialism and Imperialism Examined. I do have a brief amount of time, so I'll take any questions from the audience if you have any quick questions. If you would rather ask me, you can ask me at the end. Come see me later. Thank you.
Will, I do have a question. The Romanovs, were the Romanovs involved in this at all?
Nope, the Romanovs were not involved in this.
They were not? Okay.
Nope. They were basically controlling power in the East.
Okay.
It's okay, we want to let guests have a moment if that's okay.
Do you have time?
Good job, Will.
I'll answer your question
Okay.
right here.
Were there like 40 or 50 or 60 principalities there?
In the HRE?
In the HR?
There was a lot. There was, it was comprised of a number of different states that all elected the emperor. The effect basically was that they were nominally independent, but they were also
All those castles we see in Europe kind of represent those.
particularly the German and the Austrian ones, and as well as the Czech, some of the Slovak, and then a bit of north there.
Now we will ask the timer to put 2 minutes on the clock, so you have time to evaluate the speaker. Guests, you're welcome to join in on this. That's what you see on your chairs there is an opportunity to do so. Will Burns. Okay, that wraps up our 2 minutes, so if you can make a swift completion there, we'll move right along to our next speech. So Manoli will be introducing our next speaker, so I'll invite her up now. She'll be the evaluator as well.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and viewers at home. Tonight, Fraser Jones will be completing Project 6 from the Competent Communicator Manual, and I will read his objectives to you. Fraser will be using volume, pitch, rate, and quality to reflect and add meaning to his message. He will use pauses to enhance his message, and vocal variety smoothly and naturally. His speech will be 5 to 7 minutes long. Fraser Jones hails from a beautiful, lush green island in the Dominica in the Caribbean. Tonight, his topic is the wrath of Hurricane David. Please warmly welcome Fraser Jones.
Have you ever had a terrible collective experience that you think you would never forget? Madam Toastmaster, guests, fellow members, viewers at home. It was the morning of August 29, 1979, and we were wondering when we woke up what destruction Hurricane David had brought onto the island of Barbados. We had been following the progress of David since it was a tropical storm on August 25th, way off the coast of West Africa in the Atlantic, with a wind speed of about 24 miles an hour. It progressed moving westward across the Atlantic towards the Caribbean, picking up speed. The next day, the 26th, the speed was 37 miles an hour, reaching tropical storm status, and it was named David. The next day, the 27th, it was at 74 miles an hour, full hurricane status. And that evening of the 28th, it was up to 150 miles per hour, heading straight for Barbados. We prayed that it would miss Barbados and went to sleep. So now it was the morning of the 29th. We turned on the radio and prepared to go to work. The announcer suddenly came in. Hurricane David had veered from Barbados and veered north and missed Barbados. Our prayers had been answered. But wait! He was continuing. Hurricane David, with winds approaching 150 miles an hour, was heading straight for Dominica and would make landfall in 1 hour. Hey, we didn't pray for that. All residents should take all appropriate precautions. We rush, close all the windows, tape up the glass panes so that if they get shattered, it won't fly across the room. I know the wind was picking up, peeking out of the window. You see the trees bending and swaying. A roof of a building a few blocks away. You could see the sheet resisting the wind, moving up and then up. It was off. We said, that boat is not hurricane resistant like ours. And we were actually enjoying what was happening out there. I mean, we started getting wet. Water was coming from the ceiling. Blam! I heard that noise of my room door. A piece of the building next door had slammed into the window. Glass went right across the room. The joy we had been experiencing a little while ago, that evaporated. It was replaced by terror. We scampered like rats, being chased by a cat, and rushed into the most secure room. We squeezed and struggled to get under the bed. And there, the hurricane continued for over 2 hours, like a freight train. And suddenly, it was quiet. If it wasn't for my heart beating, you could hear a pin drop. But we knew that calm wasn't for long. You see, hurricane continued moving in a circular direction, and when it moved forward, it hit you, bam! When it continues moving and the center is over, it's a calm. But when it continues moving forward, blam! It hits you in the other direction. So, like rats abandoning a sinking ship, we crawled out from under the bed, scampered towards the back door, opened the back door outside, ran down the steps into the basement. It was concrete walls, concrete roof, aluminum louvered windows. Wow, it felt safe. How can it start up again? Full force. We could open the door and see debris flying down the street. Continue about 2 hours again. And, well, it must have gotten tired. It gone. We came out and looked at what devastation caused. It was like a war zone. Like the whole island had been carpet bombed. Look at the mountains, lush green mountains. It was like a desert, not one green leaf on it you could see. That is an experience I will never want to go through, but again, I will not forget.
Exciting story, and I don't think we'll forget it either. Now we'll ask the timer again for 2 minutes on the clock so you all can give your feedback to Fraser. The next thing on our agenda is to vote for the best speaker, and before we do that, we need to find out from the timers which of our speakers qualified.
Will qualified at 10:35. Fraser at 7:50.
Okay, so 10:35 is actually 5 minutes over. Oh, 65. So, but he didn't. Well, he's 5 seconds over his time limit. So technically, he didn't qualify. Is that what we're all going with? Okay, that's how it works. So Fraser did qualify. Oh, we were both over. Got it.
Well, in that case, I think we should vote for either one, because we're both over time.
Exactly.
Sure, that'd be fun. Is that okay with the president?
Is that okay with the Toastmaster?
I'm a role minder, sir. You don't want to ask me. But the president approved, so we're going to go with that decision. We're going to go ahead and vote since neither one of them qualified. But you don't get a ribbon. You just get the... So for voting, everyone, what you'll do is you'll see a little strip and you can write the name of the person you think should be voted the best speaker of the evening with no ribbon, because time is important and that's one of our training issues here.
Be the best loser.
Be the best loser, yes. So to keep things rolling along, if we can relieve Dennis of his vote collecting duty, he's up next.
Thank you.
Our president, Dennis, will be our general evaluator of the evening, and he will lead the evaluation section of the evening. Please welcome Dennis.
For our evaluation section, we are going to be having our two evaluators, Dan Craig, and Dan will be evaluating, of course, Will Burns' speech, and we're going to also have Manoli be evaluating Fraser's speech. So let's first of all welcome Dan Craig.
Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home. I'm going to use the evaluation guide that's in the manual to evaluate Will's speech. I'm going to mention that the overall goal of an evaluator is to give a speaker feedback, to let them know things they could do better, to help them improve, but also to encourage them so they're anxious to keep going. In this particular case, even though Will is doing kind of an entry-level speech, he's a very experienced speaker, so I might emphasize things that might be done better a little more. The evaluation guide asked me to talk about speech value, preparation, organization, opening, body conclusion, and transitions. On speech value, it's an easy 5. Very interesting talk, lots of interesting information. If I was in college going to a history class, this was a class I would have been looking forward to. Well done, Professor Burns. Preparation, really good. He knew his material very, very well. That was clear. Organization, I thought could have been a little bit better. And the couple of things that I would mention are, first, the introduction. You led us into the various players in what turned out to be the 30 Years' War and then later resulted in the Westphalian Agreement. But I would have liked just that elementary approach of saying, what I'm going to tell you tonight is. Because particularly in a speech of this type where you've got so much detail, you know it really well, but your audience doesn't. So after we hear about the 7th king's name, we're starting to go, where are we?
So it's good to say, I'm going to tell you this, this, and this, and then tell them this, this, and this, and at the end say, I just told you this, this, and this. That helps a lot for everyone's comprehension. And the one point that I would make about the body of the speech, I was fascinated. It was really interesting stuff. There was a little too much of it. You had a big story to tell, and you did it well. But if it somehow could have been edited, that would have been a goal, to try to edit it to make it a little clearer for us to digest. Conclusion and transitions I thought were both quite good. It was really a very nice talk. It asked me what could the speaker have done differently to make the speech more effective. Other than the things that I've mentioned, I have two mechanical things that I would suggest. I would make the slides bigger, however the focus on the machine is, or whatever you have to do. And if possible, it's really nice if you can use a remote. It's just so much slicker to just kind of do that instead of having to go back to the machine again. And okay, we'll look forward to that. What did I like about the presentation? What I liked was your great enthusiasm for the topic. He loves this stuff, and it's very infectious. Thanks. We look forward to the next one.
Next up, we will be having Manoli evaluate the next speech.
Good evening. So Fraser completed the sixth project, which was vocal variety. I definitely will go through the assignment and the goals. So Fraser was to choose a subject that called for vocal variety. It could be a topic that required or displayed a display of emotion. I think his topic was perfect. He chose a very emotional and tense and very suspenseful topic to talk about. So he had, and his use of volume, rate, and pitch were excellent, especially when he was explaining in the beginning. You know, the day started off, they turned on the radio, and then as it got later on in the day, there started to be more events and the suspense started. And then when the wind started blowing and he looked outside the window and he started explaining how the slamming of the windows and they needed to shut all the blinds and protect themselves inside. He used, there was good use of pauses in between when he moved to different subjects. He very clearly conveyed emotion and meaning. I felt like I was watching a movie and I couldn't, just so like on the edge of my seat, waiting for something to like bam and slam. And Fraser really did a good job at explaining that, and especially when he mentioned that he was under the bed and it was the silence. And if it wasn't for his heart beating, you could hear a pin drop. That created so much emotion, and it felt like I was there experiencing it. The organization was the logical flow of ideas, and Fraser used a lot of metaphors which were vivid and descriptive, especially like how he explained the rats were scurrying off a sinking ship, and how they were trying to run to safety and make sure they were safe. And his body language was very natural and expressive. When he was walking around the stage, he didn't use excessive body language, but he portrayed to us exactly what was happening and how the experience was. What could the speaker have done differently to make the speech more effective? I think the only thing I would add was the conclusion could have been a little more organized or more substance, just to kind of tie it back to the introduction or to kind of create a wholeness of your speech again. And what did you like about the speech? I've seen Fraser go through his different speeches so far, and I think by far he really nailed the vocal variety. He's just great with his pitch and his volume and expressions. Thank you, and well done, Fraser.
Thank you, Manoli. For the next part of our evening, we will be doing table topics, and the table topics will be led by Leslie, is it Hollis? Leslie Hollis, please come up.
Madam Toastmaster, Toastmasters, honored guests, viewers at home, this is the impromptu part of our program. So, the theme tonight is limits like fear are often an illusion. So we're going to riff off this a little bit. Who's game?
Both guested members are welcome to volunteer.
So, has there been a moment when you were fearful of something, and then you had the realization that it was all an illusion? How did you overcome that?
Take this opportunity to tell you all that it's a practice of ours to take at least 30 seconds to think about what you're going to say and organize your thoughts, and that's what Will's doing.
Fellow Toastmasters, honored and distinguished guests, and viewers at home. I'm kind of torn between several different sort of terrifying events. I mean, everything seems like kind of in the present here. I could go with several things. I think I'm actually going to go with the most present, which is right now. Because that's really the only one that matters. And I can talk a lot about experiences I've had in the past. You can think about maybe my own experiences, but it really doesn't compare to your experience. You know, I can talk about something terrifying that happened to somebody else. It really doesn't make a difference until it's happening to you and you feel that cold, clammy feeling. You know, it took me half the time to set up the projector as it did to take it down, for example. But yet there's no feeling like overcoming that fear. I'm honored and touched to have given a speech after a long hiatus, not giving speeches, and to come out here and do that. It's a really great feeling. And the thing is that as much as it sucked to feel that fear and to be afraid of letting you all down, this feeling is amazing. And it's going to go through for me probably until tomorrow morning. I don't think I'll see that well tonight, but that's okay. It's all for them. It's good. And I think the best advice I have, or the realization, is that you can move through fear. You can kind of move past that, whether it's public speaking or the first time I had to conquer actually rappelling down a tower. And I'm afraid of heights after I fell out of a maple tree in my backyard when I was 8 years old. It terrified me of heights. I went to see the CN Tower. Everybody else was up there on that glass. I'm not going to go. Had that fear, going up the tower, waiting in line to get up there. Thankfully, I had some good guidance, and it is really awesome to actually get down to the bottom. So all I can say is just confront it, move forward. It's easier said than done, but if you do that, you will have my respect, and that should be worth something, right? Thanks.
Okay, who's next? Memories. So, playing off that theme, is there a time, well, of course there was, you're going to talk about it. Talk about the time that you were fearful of something but you powered through it and it felt limitless.
Finally.
Yes.
I'm a very fearful person. I've always been a very fearful person. And fellow Toastmasters, guests, viewers at home, overcoming my fear, unfortunately, is a daily occurrence. I think back to when I was maybe 6 or 7. I would have to go to the restroom in the middle of the night. I was afraid of the dark. And that was a battle for me to get up and go down the dark hall to the bathroom. Another experience as a kid. We had a favorite swimming hole. Ozarkers name things very literally. This was called straight up rock. So you know how limestone bluffs break off and then fall into rivers? Well, this particular rock was straight up. And so at this swimming hole, that was kind of a rite of passage when you could swim across to straight up rock, climb the old lashed together ladder and get up there and dive off. And so that was a battle. And then there was beside it a sloping rock. I don't know that it had a name, but it was taller. And after you'd conquered straight up rock, then this sloping rock was the bigger challenge, because as it leaned back, if you were on top of it, you had further to go. If you didn't go far enough, you would hit the rock as it sloped into the water. So I can remember standing for 20 minutes maybe, working up the nerve to dive, and I can remember climbing back down because I didn't have the nerve. And I could go on and on. The phone calls where I called the girl in the high school, but don't have the nerve to say this is Emory, and on and on. But most times I have conquered my fear and moved on.
Any guests want to give a go? All right. Describe a time that you felt fearful, but you were able to remember the advice of someone that helped you get through it.
Good evening, Toastmasters, not yet fellow for me, but I guess fellow, honored guests, viewers at home. I can't think of a specific example right now. A general example is coming to mind. I've had different experiences teaching or performing, whether it be music or theater, and I definitely have stage fright. I definitely have this terror that arises in my body when I even think about speaking in front of people, let alone actually happening. So I know I've used the visual of imagining everyone naked to get through that fear. So that's something that came to mind, those moments when it had been suggested, think of everyone in their most vulnerable state, completely nude, when I'm up here in this nervous space, to create that sense of mutual vulnerability that can arise. So again, I don't really have any specific examples, but as people were speaking, I started to remember a feat where I did feel limitless by moving through it. My whole life I've had a fear of sharks. Even when I was a child, I would be, actually not even just a child, as a young adult, even as an adult, I would be in a swimming pool and afraid of sharks, even though logic told me otherwise. So the short version of this story is I was in San Diego, where leopard sharks breed on the beach, near the beach in La Jolla, California. and I went swimming, knowing that I was going to have this opportunity to swim with these leopard sharks. They're docile, they get to be about 5 feet, so there isn't a harm of being bit, really. Anyway, I swam into the ocean with a friend with snorkels, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by 30, maybe 35 of these leopard sharks in 3 or 4 foot water. I even touched one, this leathery skin. So that is the story that came to mind most clearly when I think about fear and taking a step into it fully. Thank you.
I've been told we have time for one more.
Last chance.
Take it.
Rana.
Take it.
Let's see. This is going to be easy.
Okay.
We're going to do a little truth, well, like truth or dare, but
Okay.
you can talk about fear or illusion.
Fear or illusion. Okay.
And either of those things where it was limitless, like limitless
Limitless
fear
fear.
or limitless illusion.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Cool. All right. I guess the first thing that comes to mind as, it's a great question, it's a really good question, I love the question. Limitless fear, limitless illusion. I think of life as, well, you have the relative and the absolute, right? Just to go into the spiritual and the mundane. I've been wanting to study astrology for a long time, and astrology is about the stars which are in the heavens. You know, we live on Earth, but the stars are up here in the heavens, and the heavens are real, they're up there, but are the stars' effect on us real? I'm not sure. If you believe it, it may be real, but it also may have an effect on us, the planets, the stars, even if you don't believe it. So that's my illusion and fear, right? So you got, the illusion could be that astrology is just a whole hoax and it's just a horoscope. You read your horoscope in the paper and it says, today is a good day to not quit your job. And then you're thinking, man, I really, I don't like this job. I hate my job. And so you're up here and you're thinking, should I'm going to subscribe to this belief that I shouldn't quit my job. But there's an element of illusion there with the stars effect. So you can really dive into astrology. You can believe that the stars affect you, and you can subscribe to all of these ideas of, Mars in your 7th house having an effect on your, wherever, something, relationships, and Venus being a significator of whatever. So there's all these things, but I think illusion, to wrap up here, illusion is really based on belief. And I remember an experience specifically where I was in a bad Jodish period, right? And I was like, this is not good. I can't travel. But I really wrapped my brain around this trip. I was going to go to Ohio with a camper, and I was freaking out, and I didn't want to do it. And I wrapped myself in the perception that I was going to be a total disaster, and I ended up not going on the trip. And so there you go, fear or illusion. It's up to you. So believe what you want.
So, timers, which of our table topics speakers qualified?
Everyone qualified. Will, 223. Emery, 218. So, everyone qualified. Will, Emery, Selena, and I forget.
Prana.
Prana.
So everyone qualified, so
Life force.
Will Burns, Emery Styron, Selena Magrum, and Prana Miller. So
Do we clap or what?
you have, how much time do they get? A minute?
Well,
Just vote.
they just vote.
Vote and we'll collect your little bits of paper. Okay, and now to evaluate the table topics, Jean Symington Craig.
Table topics, madam, and fellow Toastmasters and guests and viewers at home. Just going to go ahead and give some comments from my side on some of the table topics. It's just my opinion. You can take it if you like it. I'll tell you some of the things I liked and areas for improvements. Will got the question about the illusion of fear and to give an example. And the things I liked about Will was that he talked about his immediate fear that we all just had an opportunity to experience with him of giving a speech up front and center, and there's nothing like the present to really bring it home for all of us because we were part of his fear. He had some good word choices, I thought. The cold, clammy feeling and a long hiatus. I like some of those word choices. My suggestion for Will was he had a tendency to get too quiet on some of his lines. He was eating them a little bit in here. I know. And so it could be appropriate for the topic. But it made it a little hard to hear. And I'd also like to see a little bit of vocal variety because he had some good things where he took that cold, clammy fear that you get when you somehow to put a little bit more into that. But I understand your physiology is still recovering from earlier in the evening, and let's stay safe. Let's not go walk out. So that's great. Emery had the powered through and felt limitless. Some of the questions I didn't quite write down here, but Emery had great gestures. He's such a good storyteller. So he had the straight rock, and then he also had the sloping rock. And I know we've all had those swimming situations where I've had that experience myself. So we don't want to hit the rock, and we don't want to hit somebody down below, and it's a long way down. And so Emery had all those gestures going. He also started out at the beginning just saying, I have always been a fearful person. And that was a great opening. And he also wrapped it well, which is where he wrapped his conclusion back to the opening. So he finished with, most times he has been able to conquer his fear and power on. So that really wrapped it up in a nice, neat package with a bow on it. I didn't really have a suggestion for Emery. I'm still scratching my head. Selena, like this. She had an example. She used a little bit of a segue, which is an okay thing. She said, I didn't have a specific example, but I have something in general I could talk about. So she addressed the question, but then she took it over to an area where she felt more comfortable. And she had some good material there and gave us some insights into herself. She had good word choice, vulnerability, and some other words that I really liked. Very few filler words for a guest. That was really well done. I would suggest not to start a second story too close to the end. There was the leopard shark. Kind of came in at us on an angle. You ran the risk of running out of time, SMI at the moment. Finally, prana, limitless, whatever that limitless question thing was. So I think he started a little too big of a subject, relative and absolute. I mean, we're talking a 1 to 2 minute speech. You're going to have to really pare down. So that would be one thing. I had personal stories. I'd suggest don't start another topic in the red light. That's the thing, when you know you're in the red light and you're down to minus seconds, you just stop. Okay, that's what I did. Don't open your mouth and say anything else.
Now is the time of the evening for all of us to vote for the best evaluator. Your last little slip, take that out. First of all, though, we have to figure out who qualified. Alex, timer, can you please?
Which for the
Evaluator.
I didn't get an accurate time for, but I know that he was under 3. Jean was.
I was over by 7.
She was over by 7.
So what's for Dan?
Manoli or Dan?
Then no.
So Dan evaluated Will's speech and Manoli evaluated Fraser's speech, and you all get an opportunity to vote for the best evaluator right now, real quick.
Yep. Can Dan and Manoli, can you guys stand up for our guests? Okay. Now everybody has voted, I'm assuming. Looks like you guys are all wrapped up on that. Now is the time for, in the meeting, for our reports. Would, first of all, our timer, Alex, if everything's ready, please just report the time.
Everybody's
To everybody.
Will, 223. Emery, 218. Selena, 215. Prana, 229. Oh, okay. Will was 1035, and Fraser at 750. And remember, yeah, I didn't get an accurate time for him, but he was under 3.
Jean is qualified, that's, we know that.
Yeah, Jean was the only one that didn't qualify. Manoli was right at 3, and I didn't get an accurate time for Dan, but.
Okay. Good. That's all the time. Thank you, Alex. I'd like to give a special thank you to Alex. He just joined Toastmasters, and we threw him right in the spot today. You guys gotta stay tuned for next week. Next week is the official induction ceremony. Come back, guys. Okay, next up, our grammarian, Emery Styron.
Several good uses of language. Tabitha had this ominous, you'll find out what that means later on. Dan, an easy 5. And well done, Professor Burns, imaginative. Will, so many I couldn't begin to list them all, but the Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman. Those troublesome Bohemians and a well-placed dung heap is just a small sample of many more. I like Empire Strikes First as well. Manoli did a really good job of capturing what we all felt during Fraser's speech. Emotional, tense, suspenseful. And she said, I felt like I was watching a movie. So it really reminded me, I didn't put it in words, but she put it in words for me. Fraser, great funny line, we didn't pray for that. And then trees bending and swaying, and you were bending and swaying, and that just really created a picture. Joy evaporated, replaced by terror. Selena, in a swimming pool and afraid of sharks. Great contrast, yes. And touching one, its leathery skin. That was evocative. Prana, another nice contrast. The spiritual and the mundane. And you wrapped yourself in a perception. And Jean, physiology is still recovering. Nice, neat package with a bow on it. And the leopard story came in at an angle. Prana used the word of the day. Dan said limitation. I think it was an accidental form, but Leslie used it a couple of times. Selena used it. So there was limited use of the word of the day.
Well done, Emery. Thanks for paid good attention to use of ornamental language. So that's really good for everybody to pay attention to that. It makes everything more interesting. Let's talk about how many ahs,
Yes.
how many filler words we all use.
Okay.
Right in front of Miller.
Thank you, Dennis. Go ahead. All right. It was a very limited use tonight of the ah counter, which is great. There is a limit on the amount of uhs I can keep track of. I'm going to stop using the word limit. So, Will B, you had 4 Xeroxes, 1 and Will Burns. Fraser, you had 1 and 1 like. You were very. Where are you, Fraser? Fraser, there you are. You were great. I mean, you had a lot of. You already had a review. I loved your speech, and I think the variety was a way to kind of distract from the uhs and uhs that would pop up in speeches. Tabitha, you were clear. Dan, you had 2 Xeroxes. Emery, you had 1 1 so, 1 but, 1 and, 1 Xerox. Selena, you were clear. Nothing. I get that. And I had 3 uhs, 3 ums. I'm gonna be honest. I think I got the most tonight. So to be honest, 3 no's, and then that's it. And then Megram and Jean, you were clear. So yeah, that's my report. Yeah. Overall, great meeting in terms of the cultures. Thank you.
I like. We had limited ahs and ums, but the report was right on the dot. We got it. All italics.
Indeed.
Next up, Dan. You gotta make us laugh now. It's your turn.
This is a story about a pilot who was flying out in a western state. Some airports just have tough crosswinds, so the pilots know when they come in, they got to be careful. So the guy's coming in on his approach, he's getting closer, the crosswind hits, and the plane just slams down on the ground. But they make it to the terminal. He's embarrassed. His airline has the policy that as the passengers file off, the pilot is supposed to stand there and say, "Thank you for flying with us, please come again." So the people are all coming off, and he's feeling really bad. He can't look anybody in the eye. "Thank you for flying with us, please come again." And everybody just sort of giving him these looks, But he's just about to survive it. The plane's almost empty. There's one last passenger that he has to make it past. It's the old lady that's coming up slowly down the aisle. And she gets right in front of him, she stops, and she's not going to move. So he has to look up and look her in the eye. She says, "Young man, did we land or were we shot down?"
Now next up is talking about the evaluators in general. This time, first of all, we had some great speeches, most importantly, and our evaluators did a fantastic job of evaluating them. I'll have to be criticizing them at the same time, because that's my goal, that's my job, to make sure everybody keeps improving. For the most part, excellent job. Let's start with Dan, first of all. Will's speech was really great. It was very informational. I really enjoyed that. And the way that you described his knowledge was really important. And you did very well in that aspect. I like how you focused on that with the audience. I also think that one part that was really good is the way that you suggested things to him. You didn't hesitate to say, okay, I really enjoyed all the facts. One thing though is to recap at the end, so that way we remember all the other facts, and that's really good that you're able to pay attention and direct that focus towards a few points of improvement. Another part that Dan did very well is he went over the outline concretely from 1, 2, 3, 4. Every part that was needed of the speech in terms of the objectives, Dan went over sequentially. Another thing, mechanical improvements. I'm very glad that you went over that. I really enjoyed the visual, but yes, I agree, that's good. You tell Will, hey, we could get the projector to be a little bit bigger. So that way it's a little bit more, even more enjoyable experience for the audience. One thing I could say that would improve about your evaluation in general, Dan, would just be your intro. When you just introduced Will, be sure, if possible, try to have that part memorized, or at least being able to remember the main points, so that way you just don't have to look at it on your phone. And that's it. Otherwise, very well done. Manoli. Oh, sorry. We have 2 more. Yep. Okay. It's all good on time. Okay. Manoli. The next part is, that was very well done in terms of Fraser's speech. And the way that you introduced his detail, the detail and the way that you went over that was very well done. I really like how you introduced him, and you introduced Fraser very well. And you also emphasize on the main point of vocal variety. And that's critical to really honing that skill that we're focusing on. So I'm really glad that you took an appreciation for what he did successfully there, because that was very good with the way that you use vocal variety in your speech. You're very positive with your evaluation, and that's really good. You have very positive energy, and it's really emanating among everybody. I really like that, the way that you give your evaluation. So that's really helpful. Everybody grows that way. That's good. 2 things I'd say for you is that you could use a little bit more force with your introduction. I've done this myself too, but sometimes, so if you're introducing Fraser, say, hey, this is Fraser. So a little bit more enthusiasm during the intro. And then another part, which all of us can improve on, including myself, is keeping your eyes focused on different members of the audience when you're going over different topics of your eval. And for Jean, next up, I would say, first of all, your attention to detail is excellent. Very acute attention to detail. You're able to pinpoint a lot of the best parts and then a lot of the improvements that each person could make on their speech. So the acute attention to detail is a very strong point of yours. Your posture was very professional also. So right away when you took the stage, you have that commanding presence, like, hey, I know what's going on, and I know that this is an improvement. This is something that you've done very well. Very well done there. Another thing is that the way that you pointed out the positive reinforcements of appreciation of, say, vocabulary, that was very well done, because that's really showing people, hey, this is what you're doing well at this point. And one other part is your hand gestures were excellent. You were able to say, so when you were going like this, or like this, I could really follow the speech. Even without you talking, I can follow roughly on what you're talking about at that point, because your hand gestures are very well flowing with the way that you're evaluating. I would say one thing I did notice is the idiosyncrasy of yours is sometimes when you do introduce somebody, you touch your hair a little bit, or you start to speak a little bit quicker. And then sometimes, okay, I might be missing the point of a couple of parts of your evaluation. Otherwise, very well done to all our evaluators. Please give them a round of applause. We'll be giving out the awards. Thank you.
Okay, so we all know that while they are not getting a ribbon, we did vote for a best speaker, and drum roll please. Fraser, please come up. going to go with Best Evaluator first. And our Best Evaluator was out of Manoli and Dan. Drum roll, please. Manoli, please come up. Okay. Now, I saved this for the end because we're always so proud to do this kind of award. And so the best table topic speaker, please drum roll. Selena! To complete the evening, we'll hear some closing comments from our president, Dennis.
First of all, I would like to thank everybody for coming over here, especially our guests. Let's go over what you guys think, first of all. The guests, if you guys could just talk about what you thought about the meeting, and then just any kind of closing thoughts.
I thought it was very lively. The energy in here is very positive, and I think there's a lot of reinforcement from the audience to the speaker and the speaker back to the audience. There's kind of a reciprocal relationship here between the audience and the speaker. A lot of feedback, and that kind of builds the energy and allows, well, it's empathetic is the word I want to use. There's a lot of empathetic energy being transferred between the speaker and the people in the audience.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. It's a very welcoming environment. Safe and welcoming, yeah.
I concur. No, definitely. It's a very welcoming space, and it's really beautiful to see the safety that you all have created as a community and how supportive it is. I can really tell that when someone gets up there, everyone's rooting for that person. And as terrified as the person speaking might be, there's this safety net of support as a community. So it's really beautiful to experience that.
Thank you.
Hello. I always enjoy watching the speeches. I think it's a very, like you said, positive experience for not only the speakers and the kind of developments that they're making as speakers, but also for us as audience members. We feel like we are gaining from what you are learning as well. So.
I find it's very engaging activity all around. The speakers tonight were very engaging, and the audience, also everyone in the audience either has a role if they're a member or is involved in voting or whatever. So everybody has something to do. So it's a lot of never a dull moment. That's right.
Gosh, I really like this group. I'm so familiar with Toastmasters. I love the professionalism and just the commitment that all of you have to the chapter here. It's amazing. I've been really looking forward to Will's range of speeches that he's going to be presenting. So the informative style of the speech I really enjoyed versus the more expressive and different objectives of Fraser's speech. So that's one of my favorite things is the range of focuses that are brought forth with different topics, and everyone's so eager to really present their different range of skill there. So, really enjoyed it. Thanks for the invite.
Well, I enjoy the personal stories and experiences that people share at Toastmasters, the lifelong goals, the constant expansion of their personal selves, and that's what I like to see. It's just people grow and get better every day.
Well, I'm happy that I came here tonight. This was my first time. I've heard from Toastmasters a few years ago, but I've never had the courage. And I'm happy that I came because I smiled a lot, and I don't think I would have done this if I would have been at home watching a show or reading a book. So thank you. Thank you for the smiles.
Glad to hear you guys all enjoyed it and that you guys are feeling like it's welcoming. Always welcome to come back. Please do next week. Get a new member inducted next week, Alex, so don't miss it. Got a new chapter, new episode, 2 weeks later. Don't miss it. So thank you all for doing that. Closing, and is there any other business to discuss?
Yeah, I had a couple questions.
Yep.
First of all, I just want to say, all these little pieces of paper, since we have guests, if you could just jot your name on it and then give it to the person who gave the speech, that's really helpful. It's fun to go home and have cookies and milk and read your little pieces of paper after that. And we're all, as everyone says, we're all supportive, so it doesn't really matter. You know, go ahead and put your name down just so someone can, you know, relate to you a little bit. That's how it goes. And secondly, I wanted to ask Dennis, is there any word on our fall contests, what the dates are for that?
I think got an exact date yet on the fall contact.
Okay.
But Paul will be here on the 29th of August. Paul Wood, he's our director for our area 82. He'll be here at the end of August, so we can discuss
We're
it.
gonna have our club contest, you know, we have our club, I know you had officer meetings today.
Yep.
Was there any talk at all about when to do the club contest?
No, not very much yet.
Okay.
But we'll just be discussing it later, and I'll put it down for agenda for September, and we can even
Well,
discuss it sooner.
okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, thanks, Gene. Is there any other business to discuss, you guys? If not, then officially, make it official, adjourn the meeting.